hormones in the circulation can get into your brain and alter aspects of neurotransmitter trafficking. Now we look at another aspect. We've already seen an example of this, but let's look at this in more detail. Back from that LTP lecture, LTP, you remember LTP, synaptic plasticity, thanks to repeated experience, those glutamate systems passing a threshold and suddenly triggering a synapse to now be more excitatory for the rest of time. And at the end of that lecture, we looked at some factors that modulate LTP. Lots of energy facilitates it, energy shortage disrupts it, alcohol disrupts it, and we saw that same dichotomy there before as we just looked at. Short-term stress and glucocorticoids enhance LTP. And as we saw also, long-term glucocorticoids disrupt it. We have our classical pattern of LTP, stimulate a neuron, you get your little bit of your dendritic activation, now stimulate it like crazy over and over and over, and you get your LTP, your potentiated response. And what we see in the second case is prolonged glucocorticoid exposure, and you block that induction of LTP. And that is not a good thing. Now that's what's going on in the hippocampus. Meanwhile, next door in the amygdala, something very different is happening with glucocorticoids. You remember the amygdala and fear, amygdala and anxiety, amygdala and aggression, as we will hear about. What glucocorticoids do there is just the opposite. Glucocorticoids and stress enhance LTP. Chronic stress makes the amygdala more excitable. And when do you see that? You see that with individuals with trauma disorders, post-traumatic stress disorder. You do brain imaging on these folks, and you flash up a scary image to anybody, and usually the amygdala lights up. In these individuals, the amygdala lights up and stays on much longer. What traumatic experience does is often make the amygdala hyperexcitable, and literally what happens there is the synapses undergo LTP. Glucocorticoids drive that effect. So we see this interesting contrast in the hippocampus. Short term, glucocorticoids enhance LTP. Long term, they disrupt it very dramatically. Meanwhile, in the amygdala, chronic stress enhances LTP. Now put those pieces together and you get something very interesting going on. A massive sustained stressor comes along, and what is it doing? By way of glucocorticoids, it's facilitating synaptic activity in the amygdala. It's disrupting synaptic activity in the hippocampus. What happens when you put those two pieces together? Hippocampus filing away conscious, explicit memories. With enough of a stressor, your hippocampus is pretty much going offline. Meanwhile, the amygdala sure is filing away the autonomic, the arousal aspects of the emergency of the trauma. And what happens the next time something like that comes along? The amygdala kicks into gear like crazy, and you find yourself on the hypothalamus, the autonomic nervous system. You find yourself with your heart racing and getting sweaty and all of that, and you haven't a clue why, because your hippocampus never filed away. Your amygdala sure remembers, your hippocampus doesn't. What have we got here? A neuroscientist at New York University, Joe